Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. Welcome to Extreme Recap, everyone. After an accident cost him his parents, a mysterious dragon takes in little Pete and lets him live in the forest. The boy, on the other hand, must safeguard the creature when he comes back into contact with humans from the hunters who want to capture him at any cost. We'll talk about the movie's plot today. Pete Winged Serpent, while going with his loved ones. Pete is reading a book about a boy and his dog Elliot's adventures. At the point when a deer enters the street and his dad should attempt to turn strongly, which winds up causing a mishap and upsetting the vehicle out and about. Pete, the sole survivor, grabs the book, places it in his backpack, and begins to walk through the trees. But a pack of wolves completely surrounds him, and the young boy is about to be eaten by one of them. A tremendous and absolutely unusual mythical beast shows up on the scene, frightening away different creatures and saving Pete from being gobbled up. Very brave. When the boy discovers that the monster does not intend to eat him, he names the creature Elliot, a special bond between him and his new best friend. The mythical serpent permits the human to contact him and offers his paw for him to move up, conveying Pete securely to his nest. 6 years later, Mitchell, a man, starts telling everyone he knows that he saw a dragon in the forest. Be that as it may, since the main individuals who accept him are the kids. By portraying him as a great hero, the old man takes advantage of the opportunity to enhance the narrative. Grace, Mitchell's daughter, appears just as the story is coming to a close. She reassures the kids that she has never seen anything even remotely resembling a dragon because of her job as a forest ranger. Mitchell reaffirms that the dragon is in the forest after his daughter departs, claiming that he only appears to those who believe in rousing the children. Pete, now 11 years old, finds a small rabbit and begins to chase it, preventing it from becoming a meal for a grizzly bear. When Elliot hears the boy screaming in the background, he comes out of his hiding place to investigate. But soon decides to begin a game of hide and seek after realizing that everything is fine. Elliot is caught in the fall and flies over the forest with his companion after a not-so-smooth landing. Pete leaves his body completely invisible so that the young man can look for him. Realizing that the dragon is too powerful, the boy gives up the game and runs toward the cliff. Pete climbs the tree that protects the lair where they live and howls at the moon as he reaches the top. Pete sits next to Elliot and has no memory of his life in civilization. Meanwhile, the green dragon starts chasing his own tail. In addition, they both enjoy the freedom that the woods provide by spending the night stargazing. The following morning, the pair fly through the forest until the dragon spots a downed tree and decides to take it home. Nevertheless, as they attempt to navigate the forest with a piece of wood, Elliot decides to hide when he sees Pete's gracious presence and hides, making his body completely invisible. Pete follows Elliot from a distance. Strolling through the spot, the lady detects a few trees set apart by loggers and begins to eliminate the spray painting. Pete sees a compass in Grace's purse and decides to take advantage of the distraction to steal it, signaling that they are not permitted to cut them down while Grace is working on the logs. However, he makes a noise on his way back to the bushes and is almost being observed right now. Another ranger comes up and says he wants to leave. He wants to know if Grace is done distracting Pete and keeping him from being found. However, before she leaves, the woman takes the key from one of the back hoses and throws it into the dirt, necessitating a search for the object by the woodcutters before they could begin cutting wood. Pete moves to the road and retrieves the key from the ground as soon as the guards leave, allowing Elliot to smell the object and the compass. Yet, the things are dusty to such an extent that the mythical serpent winds up wheezing, leaving the kid's body all licked. The following morning, the two are dozing in the nook. Pete decides to investigate when he hears the sound of chainsaws in the background, something he has never heard before. He finds a group of lumberjacks cutting down trees while hiding to watch the people. One of the workers asks Gavin if they have permission to collect firewood in this area. Be that as it may, the man simply disregards him and advises him to return to work before long. Effortlessness likewise shows up at the spot and starts getting some information about Jack, Gavin's older brother, her fiancé and leader of the lumberjack team. Because they are working in a prohibited location, the woman gets angry and starts a fight with her boyfriend. This distracts the man, who lets his daughter go off on her own into the forest. When Pete first meets someone of his own size, he is really glad and is found by Natalie, who pursues him to attempt to become friends with him. Taking cover behind a log, the kid winds up making commotion and needs to run climbing the tree at a dreamlike speed, despite the fact that she is shocked. Natalie continues to chase the boy and decides to try to climb with him, but she isn't very good at it and slips. She screams so loudly that the lumberjacks trying to save her hear it. Pete leaps off the tree. He is pulling Natalie with all of his might while leaning on her. Yet, the wood gives way and the two of them fall to the ground close to the ground. Pete figures out how to take hold of a log and holds Natalie, easing back her fall, irrationally. The girl inquires about Pete's age as soon as they reach the ground. And because he doesn't know how old he is, he says he's still 5 years old. Despite the girl's odd reaction, she accepts the answer and begins to introduce herself. However, as soon as they learn that her daughter has fallen from the tree, they are confronted by Jack and the lumberjacks, who arrive eager to learn what happened. Natalie tells him about Pete revealing the location of the boy who was hiding after seeing the small Tarzan. Grace tries to reassure him and asks several questions about his family. The worker leader inquires as to why she went up there. But when she sees her compass on Pete's neck, she gets too close, scaring the boy into running away. Pete tries to flee by climbing one of the trees when he comes into contact with Gavin during the escape. However, the man knocks the boy to the ground after grabbing the boy's shorts, causing him to fall unconscious and hit his head. When Elliot hears the banging, he wakes up and starts sniffing the tracks to locate the woodcutter's workstation. While paying attention to the discussion of the people, Elliot hears Gavin referencing Pete's name and chooses to rest on a tree trunk. Better, but his weight is too much for the tree, so he falls and almost hits the workers, who see him and decide to find him in the dense forest. The mythical serpent attempts to keep disguised, while the woodcutters stop a couple of meters away to follow its impressions. They won't, however, be able to find the creature in the hospital because it can be invisible. Pete wakes up confused and begins to hear Grace and the policeman outside talking. Soon after, Pete realizes that Grace and the policeman are not going to let Pete go, so he decides to get away on his own by opening the window and running away. Afraid, the boy flees through the streets just as Natalie tries to enter the room. Trying to find Elliot, he runs into a dog, which starts barking at him. Pete, on the other hand, does not feel threatened and continues to growl and bark until the poor dog retreats in fear. The boy collides with a police car that tries to stop him a few meters ahead. However, Pete climbs on top of a passing school bus with the intention of returning to Elliot and shares a ride with the school buses full of students. Pete gazes at the skyline, attempting to track down the area of his refuge. However, unable to locate it, he decides to jump on the roof of another vehicle, which leads to a dead end and traps the boy. Grace gets close enough to reassure him. After speaking with the sheriff, Jack's fiancée and daughter get in the car and start driving to his house, taking over responsibility for keeping him safe until everything is cleared up and his parents are located. After taking the wolf boy to the police station as soon as she can get him to stop his incessant howling, be that as it may, the kid burns through no time and attempts to run for the forest. Grace chases him after the girl stops the car and manages to catch him a couple of yards ahead, promising that assuming Pete acts, she will by bring him into the timberland to see together where he resides. While the kid is acquainted with his transitory family, Gavin and his men lose all sense of direction in the forest and start meandering randomly until they in the long run find Elliot's sanctuary. Inquisitive, the woodcutter enters the area with his flashlight for investigation, discovering Pete's book on the ground. The dragon, however, is furious and decides to reveal the item in Gavin's hand, attacking the people who begin frantically rushing toward the truck. As everybody moves out, one of the logger begins the vehicle and attempts to advance rapidly as quick as possible. However, Elliot raised the car's rear bumper to stop them from fleeing the desperate location. Gavin goes after his firearm and points it toward the winged serpent, which grabs the rifle and hauls the human out by the barrel of the rifle, bowing the article as though it were made of paper. Elliot stops using his invisibility while the woodcutter is unarmed and sneezes on Gavin, who only has time to return to the vehicle before his employees flee in panic. At Beauty's home, Pete starts to rediscover progress. While the officer and sheriff attempted to sort out what befell him in their examination, the cops find a news section. Elliot begins to sniff Pete and follows his scent until he reaches the orphanage in the farthest part of town after discussing the accident that had befallen Pete's family and confirming that the boy's parents have passed away. However, the boy has already left the dragon, and the boy eventually loses track of him. He decides to follow the Gavin truck when he sees it passing by on the road. He lands at Jack's house, where the group of woodcutters tell him about what happened and ask for his assistance in battling the creature in the forest. But Natalie's father doesn't think so and won't go into the woods at night because he doesn't believe them, causing a great deal of frustration for her younger brother. Grace hears Gavin's story from the stairs, learns who Pete keeps talking about as Elliot, and decides to visit her father's house to see if she can learn more about the dragon there. The lady tracks down Mitchell and makes sense of all that she has found, showing her the drawing of the animal the kid made and seeing that it coordinates impeccably with the follows her dad had made when she was still little. At last accepting that Elliot is genuine, Beauty requests that her dad recount the account of her experience with the mythical beast one last time. Yet, presently, being totally certain that he is coming clean at Jack's home, the mythical serpent shows up outside and hears Pete's voice. He appeared content among the humans, which causes him to fly toward the hideaway, where he spends the night extremely upset and feels betrayed. As sunrise breaks, Elegance chooses to take Pete to the police headquarters. However, when she sees the government assistance vehicle, the lady abandons leaving him there and chooses to stay true to her obligation, searching out her dad so together they can go visit Elliot's nest in the forest at the timber plant. Jack shows up searching for Gavin and finds that his more youthful sibling has taken a few men and gone on a chase. When the sheriff calls asking for Grace, Jack immediately assumes that she has come to visit the boys. Elliot, going directly to meet Gavin and his men who are anxious for blood on the opposite side of the timberland. Mitchell finally has his reunion with the dragon when Pete and the others reach the end of the road and start walking to the lair. Natalie is delighted after seeing the creature for almost 30 years and approaches it, almost hypnotized, touching the dragon's snout, which is very fond of the girl. However, at that time, Gavin and his men arrive, and they begin firing tranquilizer darts at the target. Grabbing him by the neck and luring him, the dragon became extremely agitated as he attempted to defend his friend. Pete snatches a wooden stick and starts to beat the loggers, forcing Gavin to carry it away from the confusion and place it on his shoulder. Elliot makes the final decision to flee at this point, climbing a tree and taking off into the sky. In any case, the animal is as of now exceptionally debilitated by the narcotics and plunges, with everything falling over the branches and thumping down the storage compartment that safeguarded his sanctuary. After the hunt was successful, Gavin went to the lumber mill and started displaying the dragon like it was a trophy from his office. Jack calls the sheriff to demand every one of the vehicles around and requests that Natalie take care of Pete while he attempts to converse with his sibling. Grace approaches the dragon and touches it, causing its fur to change color and begin to glow in an emerald green hue, surprising everyone as Jack and Mitchell attempted to persuade Gavin to release the animal. As soon as the police arrive, Jack and Gavin leave to try to persuade them that they are the culprits, allowing Pete and Natalie to enter the shed and free Elliot, thereby releasing the chains. The girl tries to get the dragon to fly after she realizes that the adults are coming and puts up a wooden beam to lock the door. Yet, since he is extremely frail, Pete recommends that he stay undetectable, making Gavin and the others imagine that he has gotten away from through the lookout window with the exception of Elegance, who sees their presence and locks them inside without help from anyone else. When the men leave, Pete and Natalie start to consider a method for getting away. Grace's father starts the truck and speeds off, smashing through one of the shed's walls and beginning to run away in front of everyone when Mitchell arrives and offers to drive the truck as an escape driver for the dragon and the children. Frantic, Gavin orders his men to begin pursuing them and runs towards his truck. Grace, on the other hand, removes the key from Mitchell's pockets and discards it, giving Mitchell time to distance himself. All things being equal, the vehicles are as yet pursuing them and are mentioning the assistance of certain helicopters for the pursuit currently well behind. Gavin deviates from the road and swerves across the rough terrain in front of everyone, passing Jack's car and getting ever closer to the truck. Understanding that it is inevitable before they are up to speed, Pete urges Elliot to fly, causing the dragon to attempt to stand up before falling to the ground. However, the jolt dislocates the brake cable, causing a lot of hydraulic fluid to leak down the track and toward the dragon. In the hope that Mitchell will break when he realizes that there is nowhere for him to pass, Gavin moves his truck past the truck and positions it to block the bridge. The man, however, is unable to slow down because the cable has broken, so he decides to step deep and make the lumberjacks jump to avoid being hit when the truck comes to a stop. However, Elliot climbs onto the structure of the bridge because the police are still behind them and fires a jet that stops everyone. The cars jam and the asphalt starts to cave in, and a little further on, Jack and Grace's truck is hit by fire and starts to fall apart, forcing Pete to scale the structure in an effort to persuade his companion to stop referring to the humans as his new family. Gavin gets out of the car and does everything in his power to prevent his sister and brother from drowning in the river. Elliot leaps off the structure and manages to secure the truck, allowing Jack and Grace to enter the back because the vehicle is too heavy for him to stop. However, just as the couple is about to walk away, the bridge gives way and falls into the river, bringing the dragon and the people with it. Worried, Mitchell and the others watch the chasm. It are gone to think they. However, everyone is relieved when Elliot, carrying Jack and Grace on his back, emerges from the depths a few seconds later. Gavin decides to leave the dragon alone after realizing he was mistaken on the other side of the bridge. However, Pete sees police helicopters on the horizon, so he decides to leave. Riding on Elliot's back and setting off with him into the woods. The dragon tries to persuade the boy to stay at his old hideaway after a long flight. Yet, Pete says that everybody is familiar with this area and encourages Elliot to search for another home in the north where Natalie said it was the place that is known for winged serpents as an approach to bidding farewell. The boy spends the night cuddling with his dragon friend after finishing reading the book his parents gave him, leaving the following morning to meet Grace and the rest of his new family. After that day, nobody around has at any point seen the animal once more, yet entirely stealthily. Jack and effortlessness travel north, visiting Elliot and his new mythical beast family at whatever point they can. Turn on notifications, please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.